Oh, okay.
Okay. Rajak, when you're ready.
I am. We start.
Yes.
So I present you. Hello, everyone. Huh? Well, it's a good start. We wanted to keep this as casual as possible. So whoever is who has anything to say, we would like to hear from you, not in the end, if maybe in the beginning, if you want to intervene, so we can have a conversational thing happening. So wait, I'm trying to control it. Yeah. Oh, yes. So almost a year ago, Naima and I started, we participated in a program with School of Commons to work on a project together, which is to rethink the pedagogy system for Arabic type design. And Naima.
So just before to start, we'll introduce each other quickly in case you don't know us. So we are both type designer and graphic designer. I started my type design career at Dalton Mag in London, which is a corporate type design studio. I started there as a junior and I was involved in several multi-script custom typeface design. And in a corporate setting, and especially when you work for global brands, the process is very Latin centric because of course the brands want to see the Latin first. And it's also a bit like, yeah, limited in terms of possibility because it's branding, it's corporate, and everybody wants like a geometric, grotesque sans serif, and so you enter Arabic design from this sort of like very Latin-centric limited brief. And then I started my independent practice in 2019. And in my independent practice, and especially in non-commissioned projects, I love to approach multi-script differently, either drawing a script in parallel and like making room for scripts to influence each other. And outside of my design practice, I also teach occasionally, either as an associate lecturer in different design schools, or my favorite setting is to run workshops in sort of like independent platforms. So platforms that are not design schools, but are dedicated to pedagogy. And I always teach in sort of short formats, either a few days, even few hours sometimes. And this limited time push you to be creative in terms of you know, possibilities and outputs, and because you can't make a typeface in only a few days. And outside of this, I also like to occasionally write about design, and here I will mention Futurist platform, which is a platform dedicated to design and especially the politics around design. And I think type design is a practice, and especially type design education, that is sort of isolated from a political context. And I think it's quite crucial that we look at it actually quite politically, because it is. And I'm working on an article at the moment that should be released early next year on the topic of multi-script type design.
Nice. Let's see. Yeah. So my case, my background is also a little bit similar to Naima's. I'm a type designer and a graphic designer. I studied type design in Type and Media in The Hague, and it was in 2000, long time ago. And I've been working as a type designer since then, but I also design, I also do graphic design. As a background for me, I'm Armenian Lebanese, so I have a multi-script background. So I've always been dealing with Arabic, Armenian, and the Latin scripts. And these, I always bring them forward in my work. Obviously, there's a lot of Latin type designers, and my focus is on Arabic and Armenian type design. Let's see, how fast is this access remote? Yeah, so this is like, so I'm also a graphic designer, and being a graphic designer helps me a lot into like the two disciplines feed to one another. So from my observation, I've noticed that there's a lot of let's say not a lot, but there's sometimes a gap between type designers and graphic designers in terms of let's say briefs or usage of typefaces, or how typefaces are going to be used. And I'm lucky enough to have just a second, muting people. Yeah. And I'm privileged enough to have the two backgrounds, and when I'm working on graphic design, I have the needs. And sometimes I'm frustrated about something when it comes to typefaces, and I can design, or I can find appropriate people to work on these typefaces. I also teach. I've been teaching in the American University of Beirut since 2012, and as a part-timer, not a full-timer. Also, another thing about me, that I can't do one thing at a time, so I can be a full-time educator. So I'm a part-timer as part of the American University of Beirut, and I give different courses there. But not type design. Recently, we started teaching, giving type design as an elective, which we're going to be talking about in a bit. I also give workshops here and there. I started the Arabic lettering workshop series with Christian and Wael. Wow, I can't believe I can say 10 years ago. So similar to Naima, the workshops and most of the type design, let's say, teaching happens through workshops. And these are, I think the longest was when we gave it with Khat together with Naima. I think it was 2 weeks. No, the one before was 2 weeks, but during the Khat was 2 weeks. And then usually it's a week or a couple of days. Let's see. Recently, as part of AUB, I co-organized with Yara Khouri a conference about Arabic typography called MASH. I think one of the first in the region. And this is part of the, let's say, Arabic type unit group that we established in AUB as well. And this happened a month ago, and Naima was there, and you can see her there hiding on the left side of the image. And that was our first attempt of talking about what we were doing in School of Commons in public with actually people, let's say, natives who probably we needed a lot of information from. So the way this started was that we were, I mean, in general, the status quo of the Arabic type design, as it is now, it started when I mean, typography starts with printing, and printing started with Gutenberg, and Gutenberg created this systemic way of creating the letter forms, which is the letterpress metal type. And it was very standardized to make things go faster and to make things more economical for him, or it was a business to make more money and to print more books. And this took a while to be adapted by the Arabic, because Arabic, contrary to the Latin script, is completely different. I'm not going to say it's more complex or is less complex. It's just completely different. It has a different spirit, different basis, different thinking method. It's also written from left to right. It's also connected. So in the beginning, adapting this, but there was still the need of printing, obviously. And in the beginning, adapting this, let's say, script in an environment of metal press, which is this one, was becoming a little bit too forced. The people who designed letter forms in the beginning were Europeans, because practically the printing presses were in Europe and the printing was allowed in Europe. And there was a lot of influences. A lot of things were influenced. There was a lot of influence happening on the Arabic script, a lot of changes, a lot of modifications. So the mindset was, right, how can we take this Arabic, which is something that is very fluid and connected, in a format that was the square rectangle shape that needs to be. You guys don't see my cursor, by the way, do you? You see. So the rectangle shape that letters need to fit in. And this mindset still exists nowadays, till now, when we're designing typefaces. Although recently we're much more conscious, we're much more aware. There's a lot of native type designers who deal with the script. And there still is, like when I started designing typefaces, the applications, the softwares that we used to use were much more complex. We had to write a lot of code for the Arabic to perform properly in different platforms. And recently there is Glyphs, which is a font editing software that gives a lot of importance to world scripts, including Arabic, but still the mindset is we have this rectangle and we need to fit in the Arabic in a rectangle. While there is a lot of more rule, Arabic doesn't necessarily sit on a very strong baseline, has this fluidity, has these connections that are much more organic. There are ways and possibilities to do it, but still for us, there was a general frustration that was happening when it comes to type design and technology in relation to the Arabic. Besides the actual act of designing the letter forms, the area that uses Arabic script is the second biggest script in a language, and that uses the script. There are several languages, of course, Iran being a different, another widely used, where they use Arabic widely. And in terms of education, when we want to study type design, there's no program that is specifically for Arabic type design. And if we want to study type design, it still is, I mean, like Naima said, we need to talk about politics a lot of times. It still is, because of the past, because of the colonial past. The education system is that we either decide to go outside, and mostly in Europe. There are a few programs also in the States. If we want to let's say, specialize in type design and study type design. There are a few programs, let's say workshops online that happen. There's some workshops, the ATDB workshop that happens here and there in the Arab countries. Actually, at this point, mostly in Lebanon. There are universities in the Arab countries, but these universities are the American University of Beirut, or the American University of Cairo, or the VCU Arts, Virgin Commonwealth University in Qatar. So these are universities that have very, very high tuitions. And really, if you want to know, I mean, they have elective courses there for type design and let's say with appropriate people to teach Arabic type design. But unfortunately, it reaches a very, very small amount of people. It's the privileged who can afford going to these kind of universities, who can access these. And there's a gap between, let's say, the vast majority versus, and how much of the people who want to study Arabic type design can. So together with these, let's say, the education system and the way technology deals with Arabic, and let's say there was also our frustrations with the workshop length and the possibility of giving information. Also, at the same time, we don't have a lot of, let's say, we don't have any written information, written knowledge about Arabic type design. There was quite a frustration between Naima and I, and we were talking about this. And Naima introduced me to the School of Commons program, and they were highlighting the idea of commenting, and it was something that was very attractive to us, and we felt that it would be a good platform for us to be able to, let's say, make time and work on this together. And I think Naima was the one who coined the term commenting, and we like that. We like to keep using that as a verb, and we want to comment the education or the knowledge of Arabic type design. And it was a collaborative and contributive practice, obviously. So our experiences generally, that's when it started. Mostly it was all online. I mean, it was right after the whole shebang that happened where we couldn't travel. And so we were mostly meeting online. It was only a month ago that we met live and we worked, and it was nice. So most of the work was done online, and generally speaking, when we are giving workshops, and we gave a workshop together before the whole craziness happened in 2019. And the general approach for us is we have in the main, let's say, problematic of Arabic is that there's Arabic calligraphy and there's Arabic typography, but there's a big, let's say, disconnect between them. Our knowledge, our information of how letter forms look like and how letter forms should be is from the calligraphic environment. And there are different styles within the calligraphic environment. And we don't have it's all about everyone's own interpretation of how do you take this information and put it in a typographic environment. So our information is this, and so what we do is generally the way we approach our workshops or courses is that we try to introduce participants to the different styles and talk about each one. Of course, none of us are calligraphers. Of course, we're just like, we know how to study calligraphy, but we don't know how to actually do calligraphy. And from that, what we do is we try to subtract the skeleton of the letter forms and try to explain to participants that once you get the skeleton, you can dress it the way you want. And of course, eventually what happens is that we give them different sketching techniques, we give them different parameters that they can play with to come up with their own letter forms. So this is one part of the outcome of this exercise, where you get let's say, a skeleton from it. From the skeleton, different parameters like contrast, weight, width, and different things like that could affect how the letter forms look like. Of course, all this is done by hand. Nothing is done digitally. So hello to Hala, if she's here. I told Naima I'm going to do that. And see, here's other examples. You can see some examples where you have really high contrast letter forms versus something that is much lower in contrast, and also in terms of detailing of the letter forms. But of course, this comes with challenges like anything else in the world or in life. One of the biggest challenges is, as I said earlier, is that our information is from calligraphy, and calligraphy has certain proportions that work well in the calligraphic environment, but without going into the details of why they have become this way, transforming this into a digital outline is something that is a bit difficult to explain to participants, and there's a lot of interpretation, and it's a very iterative process where you need to do, and of course, still a lot of as Naima said in the beginning, a lot of brands or a lot of foundries or projects are based on the Latin script. So it starts with, there's a Latin script, Latin letter forms that we need to create Arabic for, which gives you certain distortion of some proportions of letter forms in order for it to fit well. And there's no rules for this. Each type designer does it the way they think works for them. And through time, I mean, people have found ways of doing it, but so there's always this challenge where we want to tell people how to do it, but then at the same time it's not the like the way to do it. So there's always these difficulties in transmitting this knowledge. And of course, in a short amount of time, whether it's an elective course that is 15 weeks, which is still a short amount of time, versus 3-day workshop, there's a lot of there's a lot of time that we dedicate to hand and everything done by hand for people to be able to manipulate and play faster and change the outcomes faster versus going digital. And then going digital is a completely different realm where you need to explain, besides the type design process, the software, how it works, the detailing of that. And it can be very, very frustrating in the beginning, obviously, I mean, I completely understand. For me now, I'm trying to understand Figma, which is giving me a lot of headaches. So yeah, so I mean, this is another thing that within a 3 days workshop, we want to create a typeface, but how much of it do you dedicate to the handwork and how much of it do you dedicate to the digital work? So it's something that was part of our personal frustrations. So I think, Naima, you can take over.
Okay, I could continue from now. So yeah, after this first sort of exchange between Rajak and I, because of course we have our professional experience and we have also our experience as educator, and so already in this exchange there was a lot of material and ideas, and after exchanging on that, we wanted to open up the conversation to more practitioner. So also first I want to say that we have a long list of people we want to get involved and discuss with, but interviews take time, transcription of interviews take time as well. So so far we've only talked with like 7 designers total, but after that also we paused and we sort of like digested and decided that maybe when we reach out to more designer, it would be more with like concrete proposals and ways to get involved. But I'll first introduce the people we talk with. So first is Yara Khouri that Rajak mentioned earlier. She's a type designer and educator based in Beirut. Then we talk with Najla Badran, who is Egyptian designer based in Cairo, also designer and educator. Omaima Dajani is a Palestinian designer who is currently in Holland, and I think she's here. Hi. And she's currently doing the Type and Media program in Holland. Then we talk with Samar Zurek from Jordan, who is based in Finland, and Sina Fakour, who's an Iranian designer based in France. Mohamed Gaber from Cairo as well, and Christian Sarkis, who is a Lebanese designer based in Holland. So already in the map, like all of those people have been either passing by Europe or still in Europe to either study or work, and that is like very often the case in among the Arabic type design community. So I'll share a few. Yeah.
No, I want to say that we also like the kind of like our questions that we had formed was to try to ask them as students when they were studying type design, or how they studied type design, and also as practitioners eventually. So it was divided into generally 2 parts.
Yes. And on this theme of like, how did you start your journey into type design? There was a strong commonality of, a bit of a struggle in terms of like access to resources, design feedback, and even, a community for resources and exchange. around Arabic type design. And even if, you know, now there is more material on the web, there is still not that much material about really design per se. And so, yeah, this lack of resources has been overwhelmingly common thread. We also talk about the curriculum of the different schools these designers attended, or the design schools where they teach. And the fact that, you know, there is very often a Eurocentric curriculum, and indeed, it's not because you are in the Arab world that you're going to escape those Eurocentric design theory and approach. It's a bit more complicated than that to avoid it altogether, especially in the education system. We also talk, many designers talk about that. Maybe Rajak, you can add up to that, the relation to Arabic language and script among the designers and the young generation.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, it's very much related to the desire of being like the West and not wanting to speaking Arabic. And it also depends on what kind of university you go to. So here in Lebanon, for example, if you are from the American University of Beirut, it's not likely that you would want to speak and communicate in Arabic, versus if you are in the Lebanese University, which is a public university, which is for free, you would see it's much more common to speak in Arabic and communicate in Arabic. Even the courses would be in Arabic.
And then we talk about type design pedagogy outside and inside the design school. So when it's inside the design school, like in general, the type design module are part of a graphic design curriculum. And the fact that it's quite a lot on top of the graphic design curriculum to do type design, because it's really a discipline in itself. And also, I mean, that happens to me when I teach in school sometimes, is that not all graphic designers want to be type designers. And also, so if the type design course exists only in this context, then you also miss out on a lot of people who are interested but are not necessarily graphic designer students. And the fact that, at the contrary, when you teach outside of the design school, then you can get a crowd that is really there to learn the discipline. And at the same time, when you are, there is a sort of like a big gap between like the proper courses dedicated to type design are at MA level or even higher, if we talk about type and media and reading, for example. And so you need to have been through a journey of like graphic design or another study to reach those diplomas. And at non-educational domain, you have also a lot of people who just want to give a go at type design, and you know, then they have only this sort of like small workshop format. They only have access to that. So like there is a lot of like, yeah, a sort of a lack of accessibility to this knowledge. And it's also quite elitist in some other way, you know, to reach it. And then we had very interesting discussion about the fact that, you know, there are all these sort of like individual initiative in terms of workshops, or it can also be material online. And, you know, a lot of people involved in the field are really willing to share and transmit what they know. And also for the next generation to have it easier than them. But all these sort of initiatives can get a little bit lost in translation, because they are not necessarily archived or not systematically archived, and not in a, you know, systematic or global manner. And that, yeah, there is a real lack of like record of all those different efforts that are happening. And we also talk about the fact that, yeah, there are different approaches to Arabic type design. There are different schools of thought, also depending on where you study, with who, etc. There are also people who are like self-taught, and it's maybe they have also a different take. But the idea that maybe, you know, it's actually quite interesting, this sort of fluidity and horizontality of, you know, and a variety of approaches. And another thing that was mentioned several times is also the fact that as designers, often we don't feel like entitled enough to write a design book, you know, because we are not researchers, and we like writing is not our best skill. But in those conversations, there was also the idea of actually maybe it's better to record no matter what, because otherwise there is no traces at all of those like steps. And even in one designer journey, you know, you can change your mind, you can change approaches, and for someone who is learning, it can be also very interesting to learn about these different phases or these different steps in one's career or journey with Arabic type. So rather than doing a book, we decided to do a workbook, and this come in the context of School of Commons. The idea that was facilitated by Humdrum Press, who are part of School of Commons, was to create material for a publication. And we decided to take this opportunity to create a workbook, a pedagogical material that we could share with the world. And that because we got this time in this year to do that, we thought, okay, like, let's jump on this opportunity. And
Also, thank you, Amy, for calling it workbook, because it was just so clear when you called it workbook for us. Initially, we were calling it zine. We didn't want it to be we didn't want it to be very formal, because we were scared of any kind of, let's say, authenticity but then workbook makes sense.
Absolutely. Shout out to Amy for the workbook. And so finally, like a month ago or so, we were together in Beirut, and we got to sort of like map out the workbook. And we want this to be like a very sort of hands-on guide, very visual, to like the first steps toward creating your own like Arabic typeface. And the idea for this material to be bilingual. And we worked with Asil Shehab, who works with Rajak, and she did a lot of the design of the workbook. For us, it was also important that from the start this was going to be like a collaborative project, and we were happy to be able to get different people involved. I also want to mention Tala Shami, who did a wonderful job with the transcription of the interviews. So this workbook is almost ready. It will be printed by Humdrum, and there will be a few like printed copies. But we also want this material to be online and to be downloadable for free. Like, this is really important to us. And we will probably sometime in January, we would love to test this workbook with a few people. So if you are someone who knows a little bit about Arabic type design and wants to know more and wants to give it a go, you're a great audience for this. So, and if you're interested to test it and share a little bit of feedback with us, like, we'll be very happy for you to get in touch. We'll share this again in our platforms when the time is there. So it's a lot of like different exercises to get a sense of like the type parameters that, you know, the weight, the contrast, the styles, etc. And this is, you know, this is workbook 0.1, and hopefully there will be a 0.2, and you know, maybe more. This is the starting point, and when we will like share this workbook, when it will be ready, we will share it with like a list of resources online, like all free resources or everything online that we think are a good start, like to accompany this workbook. And we will also add like a Google Sheet where anyone can add their suggestions of, you know, anything that will be missing from this list. We've been very inspired by platforms like BIPOC Design History, Futurists, to mention them again, who have been massively using this Google Sheets and other, you know, simple online tools to share knowledge and resources, you know, without having to wait for books to be printed. And so this is what we've been able to do this year, and I'll talk a little bit about the next steps, for which we would very much like more designers and educators to get involved. So the questions, you know, after School of Commons ends for us with the year is, how do we keep commoning, and where do we store or publish further content? And there are some already existing platforms dedicated to Arabic type design archives that could be possible collaborators, but we kind of try to zoom out a bit of the discipline in terms of thinking about what platforms could be useful to share knowledge. And also, yeah, because at the beginning we really had this idea of like, we're going to create our own thing, our own website, and then quickly the conversation became like, what can we do right now or in a sort of like near future that is going to be as low cost as possible, and as, you know, effortless as possible in terms of, you know, creating or designing a space to share this knowledge. And we would love to create a YouTube channel where we can both like create playlists of existing content and also share like, you know, short tutorial with different design exercises, like echoing with the workbook. It could also be a place where different Arabic type design workshops or lettering workshops are archived as a, you know, a collective effort to like put this somewhere in one place. And yeah, this is some ideas of like what could go there. And yeah, again, like you would love this to be like a collective effort. And then here I will mention Chantal and Pule from School of Commons as well, that I was with in June when we had a School of Commons meetup intensive weekend, and I had beautiful conversation with them about the idea of, yeah, like what does radical access to knowledge means, but also a knowledge that can be, you know, editable, fluid, evolving. And, you know, the idea of Wikipedia came up also as a, you know, platform where you can have different people writing together, but you can also have translation, and, you know, Wikipedia being like a massively used and available website. And so we started to dig into what's there and what can be improved, and there is definitely a lot of improvement and addition that can be done. These are some examples of the things we've been thinking about, and they are, yeah, stuff that can be added to existing pages, new pages that can be created. We haven't started that part yet, but we would love to get into it. And again, like anyone who's interested, let's talk about it. And to sort of push further this idea of like open access and open source, we also thought about like, okay, what more can we do? What more can we put out there as like, you know, pedagogical material? And we thought it could be interesting to share skeleton typefaces for the different styles, such as like a simplified Nasser structure, or, you know, simplified Maghrebi structure, and then more styles. And if we design those skeletons, and those are open source, meaning like anyone can like download, open, modify, and so people who wants to have their first go at designing an Arabic typeface, like they can use this skeleton as a start. So it's already like a sort of like working base in terms of like the technical aspect of type, but it's also that you already have proportions that are, you know, in place, and then you can start, you know, applying the parameters that are part of your own brief. So change the weight, change the contrast, change, you know, the widths, etc. And then, again, to talk about next steps, but also what workshops could look like in the future for us. We went back to this idea of like, how do we complete typefaces during like short period workshops. And when you do a type design workshop, even in a small format, we still follow that logic of like one student, one project, which is, you know, the logic that you have when you do like a master in type design. But I think if we want to make the most of this short time, we could actually do like collective work, which is a great way, I think, to understand how much of a sort of like coherent system type design is, and like really grab a sense of that. And then one thing that is dear to our hearts as well is designing typefaces to revive graphic archives. There is a rich archive of Arabic letter forms in posters, in like many formats, with like very creative letters, and that, you know, that sort of like diversity is not yet reflected in you know, Arabic typefaces that are available. But this is an incredible resources. And visual archives. So if you could like run a workshop where, you know, the idea is that you explore those archives at first, and then pick a few and sort of revive those letters, and release typefaces that are, you know, a way to reactivate this history, basically.
I mean, the part of the archiving was also, we were discussing this, that it was also a kind of way to avoid the part where you need to come up with a brief and you need to think about all the parameters and be at the level of, let's say, at a certain level that you can manipulate these things. And on the contrary, for the archives, you have the shape of the letter forms. From it, you can do a kind of a reverse work of trying to look at it and then deciphering it and then trying to give it the parameters and then working on a typeface, so you almost have the brief.
And so it's more of an observation exercise at first, which is a really important part of type design. And the idea of revival is quite popular when you do type design studies, but usually when you do a revival, it will be a revival of an existing historical typeface. But I think in this case, it's more like reviving the archives as a whole. And then also we were thinking more in terms of like a commission process. It would be interesting to imagine that. So we have on one hand this sort of like exploring archive approach, but another approach could be to ask type users to come up with a brief for a typeface, which is basically the opposite of like what usually happens is that a designer decides on a brief, design a typeface that is then distributed to users. But in this case, would be like the users create a brief for a typeface and then ask the designers to answer it. And so yeah, there are not really, there are not at all fixed dates or places for any of those workshops yet, but these are kind of what we would like to work towards. And for all of this to happen, we need you. It's yeah, so you know, we've done like 1 year on around those ideas, and to continue we really need like more people to get involved and take part in the conversation, in the making. And we really believe strongly in this idea of commoning, and we hope it talks to you, and there will be more of it. And so we'll end on this, and now I don't know if there is any questions.
We have 10 more minutes to open up for questions or any kind of discussions. I mean,
questions, comments.
For us, when we say we need you, it's not only for people who, I mean, you don't have to be a type designer. Maybe you're a student who is studying type design, who has some remarks on how it's being given to you as a course. And I mean, everyone at this point, people who have the passion of writing, that can help us write, because I'm so bad at it.
And yeah, maybe we can say again that early next year, we would love to have some people to test the workbook and give us some feedback on this. And if you already did an Arabic type design workshop before, it's okay. Like as long as you are, I guess, not professional, it could be insightful. Do you see the chat? Because I don't see it.
I can see it. Okay. Garin is asking, what can we do? So many things, Garin John.
Yeah, I think the question can also be like, what would you like to do in terms of, you know, what would you be able to contribute with, or what would you like to learn that is not at all in what we showed or thought about so far? Could also be.
Well, you don't see the chats, right? Mahmoud is asking, hi Mahmoud. So I got here late, so excuse me if I'm entirely out of place, but is there space in the program for not only practical exercises, but in the form of writing that students do? I'm not sure if I get it. You can unmute and tell us. Where are you?
Oh, hi everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I was here maybe, I was here a bit late, so didn't get everything that you guys said. I apologize about that. I really wanted to attend.
Don't apologize. Okay.
Amazing. So my question is, I could, from what I got, basically is at the very end that there's a lot of interesting, you know, practical things that students have to go through, basically within this program, within this, you know, alternative, program. But is there like have you guys thought about the role of designers also writing about their practice within this program that could also aid the process of learning overall? I don't know if that's clear in anyway,
It is
but I
actually.
hope that
We haven't thought about it that way, but I mean, we're open for everything. We do. I mean, from my perspective, in my case, it's difficult for me to write about my practice, and it's much more easier. I mean, for me, I'm a visual person. I'm a practical person. I can transmit the knowledge somehow in a very informal way, I guess. But we don't have. I mean, we're not considering this as the way of doing things. Like the alternative pedagogy is not as in we had that and then we're coming up with something else, but the something else is anything at this point. And let's say the workbook that we did was our way of putting our knowledge or what we do usually with workshop out there. And then maybe someone can come in and say, actually, this part can be much more destructive and you shouldn't do it this way. Maybe we should do it that way. So there's room for everything, actually, Mahmoud. And if you're interested in writing, because you write and you write beautifully, we could do collaborations on that.
Yeah.
Hard.
I think one of the things we thought about, because also I think we put like writing on design as one of the most difficult tasks for designers, but it might be for us and not for all, of course. But one thing that we thought could be interesting to do as well and to organize was like a sort of like a cross conversation among designers to, you know, discuss like how they approach Arabic type design, and you know, like a bit of a, how do you say, like a round table around this topic.
Okay, thank you guys. Yeah, that sounds great. Definitely we'll reach out. Maybe we can actually do something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We do have some projects that we were discussing today, Naima and I, that we can work together on that, but we'll have a conversation on the side about that. When it comes to the rich archives that you're putting forth and trying to digitize letter forms from it. I mean,
absolutely. That's why we're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Betul, yes, the answer, of course, you can do it. Thank you. And Norma, hello, I have a question. Hi, Norma. How is she? Currently doing my master's in type design at ECAL and tackling an Arabic typeface. Do you think it's possible to have a slanted baseline on glyphs? Or do the technological limitations now still have drawbacks? Is it possible to collectively create a software that can cater to Arabic type design, or is that something that is already under process? Well, there's so many questions and so many like.
You
so
can do.
I don't. Sorry.
I was gonna answer the first point, which is you can have a slanted baseline.
Yeah.
Glyph.
Just for the people who, slanted baseline is basically the same idea that I was talking about in the beginning, where Arabic doesn't have a very strict, strong. Now it does, because we've learned how to adapt that, but the slantedness of the Arabic is a crucial part of it, and then digitally doing that is a bit of a hassle. And earlier it was not possible. Now it is possible. The problem with that is that it gives you a very mechanical and very, what's the word, robotic way of putting things in calligraphy. When you have the slanted baseline, calligraphers can manipulate on how the slant is. So in the case of digitally doing that, it's going to be within the current platforms like glyphs. It's going to be a set number that you're going to have, and you can do kerning of words. So, and then also besides that, there's also the problem of how is the typeface going to be, let's say, what's the word, shown in platforms. So a lot of softwares don't support this and can give you some breakage, but there are things. And then here, I would say there's a lot of political reasons or financial reasons. There's Tasmim Thomas Milo's work that he spent 20 years of rethinking the technology to adapt to work for Arabic rather than the Arabic to work for the technology. So you can do a lot of like a lot of like proper things that are very properly Arabic in the ACE technology that he developed. But the problem is that there's no platform or application or software that can do that, that can generate the work that comes up from that technology. And then for it to work, you need the big tech companies in the world to come up together and decide that, okay, we're going to adapt this in our technologies, and then it will become common. So there are ways. There's also, Sina did, by the way, Sina, thank you for the message. And Sina did a great project that was not necessarily about type design, but also about digitally having Arabic typography, but also he wanted it to be in a web-based format, so it can be accessible, which is technically difficult to do. But to answer you to the last question, Norma, we need a lot of technicians, software engineers, coders. If we come together, yeah, we could do wonders. Sina is looking for people. So if you are a coder, contact Sina.
Mm-hmm.
You still can't see the chat box,
Yeah,
right?
I can see it now.
Ah, okay. By the way, Randa, I'm supposed to answer your email. I'm sorry. Hi, Randa.
There is a question from Tala. Have you considered podcast as an alternative way to have discussion with designers to discuss their processes in a non-written format for those who are not comfortable writing? I think
I like it.
Yeah, podcasts are great, and also I found it challenges to talk about design without showing design. But I was interviewed for a podcast recently, and it was actually quite interesting to talk about design without showing it.
Oh, Randa, I didn't know about that. Thank you for the information. I will. We will look into that.
Yeah, I just thought it could be an interesting way of collecting and having a printed artifact of all of the resources that people.
Nice.
I can share the link to that too.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, Arena is a good one. Yeah, cool. It's a good idea.
Betul, you want to ask something? Or is that raising hand or saying bye-bye?
It's actually, I raised my hand on Betul's computer, but this computer that
Lily.
Yelena, hi.
Hello.
This computer that Yelena has is the one that has the sound on. So this is, now I'm over here. I just wanted to share, I was typing it and then I thought, I hope it's okay if I speak it. I'm slow with typing. That there was something, Kajak, that you shared that I remember that really stuck with me in one of your first, your and Naima's first presentations with School of Commons, which was a story about, probably I'm going to get it wrong, but basically you introduced this opportunity you had designing a typeface for IBM, and you maybe said the word embezzlement, or I took the word embezzlement. Basically, you were presenting this idea of working professionally as a type designer, being paid, and then using those funds towards the fronts of these projects or other kinds of projects, workshops, and commenting projects that are group learning activities or production activities. And in this presentation, it's really exciting to see this prospect of the YouTube channel, incredibly generous to have like a pedagogical YouTube channel, or developing these pages on Wikipedia. I just wonder, I mean, I'm saying I really appreciate how it feels like both of your ethics or ideas around this project is, common and plurally authored, and then also open source as a root basis of the work. My comment is that I appreciate that. My question, maybe I have none, but also my question is just sort of how does how do you kind of continue to fund it? How does it continue to be something that is manageable within your practices and lives in a world that that exists on money? It's a question for me too. I think about it all the time. And I think embezzlement is the answer, but I just wonder maybe if you have some thoughts on it.
Well, thanks for remembering that, Lily. Yes, it was about IBM. It was actually about, not necessarily about taking the funding and then working on projects and let's say funding the commoning projects. But at the time, the idea was that I'm getting paid by a huge tech company and I'm doing the work, so I am being compensated to the work that I do. But then the typeface is being open source and people can download it, use it, even open it and change it, and then re-upload it and then do whatever they want with it. And that was for me the first time it was a good formula, because licensing Arabic typefaces especially in, I mean, I don't know, it's a big topic, but for me it's a question mark, because does it work in this region, and do you really have to do it this way? It's letter forms. I mean, I do want to make money to live, but still, but in terms of funding such projects, I would say there are existing programs, there are existing organizations that fund, like Afaq, Mufradat, that are based from the Middle East and do give a lot of opportunities to artists, designers, filmmakers. I don't have any opinion about them in terms of how much of it is political, how much do they give, but I've seen projects that are funded by these groups, and then good things have come up with it through it. And I mean, in my case, there's also AUB. I do have access of the university and be able to get things done through their funding. But I mean, people who have a lot of money have a lot of bureaucracy and have a lot of shitty things that you need to go through that we as designers or creatives don't like to go through it. So it's like this kind of situation. But I think, I mean, with this, we're just two people in terms of projects, and everything that we're discussing is very ambitious, and we have so many ideas, and I'm certain we can't do them all. So if anyone wants to take an idea and do it themselves, please do it, and or tell us, we can help. I'm good at giving opinions rather than actually having time to do it, or financially. But I mean, for some reason, I'm hopeful. I think there's a lot of, there are opportunities that we can do things out of. What else? Let's see. Oh, Naima, you're answering already. Nice.
Is there any last thoughts or questions? If not, like, I hope you took a screenshot with our contact and we'll hear from you. Yes, this session was recorded. I don't know yet where we will share the recording, but yeah, we will share it somewhere soon, for sure. And thank you all for attending.
Yes.
It's a pleasure sharing our progresses with you. And again, we'll hope like this is only the beginning. And
thank you, everyone.
Whenever the work
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Nice.